we're moving right along. We've been working a lot with decimals and understanding decimals. Now we want to really understand the application of those decimals, which usually has to do with division. So today we want to do a nice review of understanding how division problems can be done and how we come away with final answers. So I have 3 problems here, and we want to solve it in 3 different ways. So the first way I want to do it, I want to have a remainder at the end, right? So 30 divided by 4 is going to be, it's going to go in 7 times. I'm going to get a 28, get a 2, and in the end I have a remainder of 2, right? While remainers do have value still at this level of math, it's not a common thing that you're going to see very often, right? Most often than not, it's going to want a fractional form or a decimal form. So what does that look like? All right, that was just a book phone. Don't worry if you heard that bang. If you didn't hear that bang, then I really distracted you. Anyway, moving on. All right, this time let's put it in fraction form. All right, so we know 4 goes into 37 times. 7 times 4 is 28, right? We get 2 left over. So instead of remainder 2, it becomes 2/4, which we know can be reduced to 1/2. And so we have a second way of writing it. We can write it as a remainder, we can write it as a fraction, and then of course we can write it as a decimal, right? Which would be our third example. So 4 goes into here, right? 28, we get our 2, after we subtract, decimal goes straight up, 0 goes down, now we got 20, and we have our final answer. So 7 remainder 2, 7 1/2, 7 5/10. And so as we look at those 3 different ways, we can say, hey, you know how to divide things, and you know how to do it in 3 different ways. Now let's take a look at this and understand what is the value of using and understanding all 3 of these parts. Okay. First of all, we see divide and round to the nearest thousands. So now we kind of got to make a decision. How do we want to divide? What's going to be the best? Because we're looking at nearest thousands, then we need to understand that probably going to a fraction or to a remainder is not the best idea. So instead, let's write out our problem and solve this. Right? Decimal is going to go straight up, goes right there. 9 goes into 37. I'm going to say 4 times. 4 times 9 is 36. Right, have the 1. 4 goes down, 9 goes into 14. 1 time. 1 times 9 is 9. Bring out, got a 5. Right, got all these zeros. Just bring it down here. 50. 9 goes into 50. 5 times. Right, need a little bit more room. That's going to be a 45. And then we get 5. Wait a minute. Do we see something that's going to continue to repeat? Of course we are. This 5 is going to continue. And so if I get rid of this line, move it over here, in the end, we're going to come away with a response. Right? It's a repeating. It's a repeating. That's what's actually happening. However, we can't actually stop there because the answer says go to the thousands. It doesn't want a repeating decimal, even though that's what's going to happen. And so in the end, we got to look at this and say, okay, I have 4. This is what the answer is. That's what I got. That's the pattern that I notice, but it wants it in thousands, so I got to go 1 place value more. Right? I got to start showing that thousands so that I can say, okay, here, look back 1, round up, and in the end, this becomes the final answer because the problem asked for thousands. Right? So we recognize the repeating decimal, which is good. However, we also want to understand that repeating decimal might not be the answer that it's asking for. So reading the question carefully is important. All right, here's your sample problem then, working with the idea of how to use division answers to help you. Right, so 3 problems, right? 27 students are going on a field trip. Oh, what a great idea. Each van can carry 6 students, so how many vans are needed, how many vans can be completely filled, and how many students will ride in the last van, or I guess there must be a van that's not completely filled. Just a little hint there. All right, that is the end of lesson 44.